Coming up, it could be a national model for health and wellness, developed right here in Indiana. One school district says that Ascension St. Vincent Health, Wellness, and Preventative Care Institute helped save more than $11 million in just 2 years. Fiat Chrysler Automobiles engaged too. Exclusive details in our top story. Plus, as undergrads at the University of Notre Dame, the core team at startup Resonado developed a method to transform the way speakers are designed. The CEO of that startup is here to explain how the technology works and the deals they have landed so far. And the countdown is on to the 70th NBA AllStar Weekend in Indianapolis next February. This week, the local host committee announced details on a major statewide legacy initiative. I caught up with Pacer Sports and Entertainment President Rick Fussen, who shares specifics about the projects, where they will be, and lessons learned from the recent AllStar Weekend in Chicago. Details on those stories and much more ahead on this edition of Inside Indiana Business. Hello and welcome to Inside Indiana Business. I'm Gary Dick. Health and wellness and the rising cost of health care are, of course, major issues facing individuals, companies, organizations in every corner of our state. Ascension St. Vincent Health believes its model for near-care primary care clinics could be an answer for companies, schools, and organizations looking to limit health care spending. In just 2 years, Carmel Clay Schools has saved more than $11 million thanks to a partnership. All the services are at no cost to the employee. The savings are after the cost of operating the wellness center are considered as well. Joining me now with details are Ascension St. Vincent Health Wellness and Preventative Care Institute Medical Director Dr. Michael Busk. Also, Carmel Clay Schools Associate Superintendent Roger McMichael. And gentlemen, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Gary.
And I know, Mike, I've talked to you about this concept before. In a nutshell, just give us the business model here. A clinic, a wellness center, near site, located near site. What's the model all about?
We provide easy access for all the employees and their family to keep them healthy with high quality care. It's a one-stop shop with all the services there, from behavioral health, medical care, physical therapy, radiology at some of our centers, dietitian, exercise physiologist, all to keep you healthy and get to the root of the problem. We're preventing disease and then managing chronic disease. Thus, we focus on the outcomes, thus the lower costs fall in place. And more than anything else, it's a strong partnership with our companies and our schools, working together and transparent in all our care.
I want to talk about the expanding footprint because it's going beyond Indiana in a moment. But Roger, Carmel Clay Schools, major school district, of course, in our state. I talked about those substantial savings. Talk about the partnership, which has been going on now for 7 or 8 years, I guess, and how this has benefited employees, staff, faculty, everyone involved.
Well, we wanted to have a hospital behind our operation. We feel that the employees that work in our center, it's important for them to be a part of a network of healthcare, and that's proven to be the case. And so as we have expanded our services, because usually when people think about a wellness center or clinic, you're thinking about physical health, but we're just as focused on mental health and social well-being and really financial well-being as well. So Ascension St. Vincent is able to provide all those services, and then these employees are all under one roof, so they are working together for the benefit of the patient.
Why is this, in your view, working? I mean, those numbers, $11 million in savings, substantial. Why is this, in your view, this concept working when others maybe are not?
Starts with the people, and we have the best people. I believe we have the best people in our wellness center of any place in the country, and I would credit Ascension St. Vincent for that. That's where they come from, and these folks all work together. But I think one of the factors that has made us really successful is we absolutely focus on outcomes. We're not focused on money. We're not oblivious to the money, but we know that if we can improve people's health, it'll also, the money will take care of itself.
Mike, talk about, because many others are interested in this as well, Fiat Chrysler Automobiles, you put a clinic in Kokomo, you're going to expand up into Detroit.
Right.
The company globally looking at this, other states looking at this as well. Talk about the expanding nature of this model.
Well, it's expanding because of our work at Carmel Clay School and showing that outcomes. And we've had huge success opening our wellness center for Fiat Chrysler Automobile in Kokomo with a possibility of 22,000 covered lives, much larger facility. And it's been so successful there since 2018 that we're now building another center for the new plants that are going in Detroit. And so we're taking this, we can take this across the country, this model, and in many ways it's been time tested, especially with our strong partnership with Carmel Clay Schools.
All right, an interesting model that is really gaining traction. In fact, I should mention an independent third party has rated this clinic at Carmel as I think the most efficient and effective clinic of its kind that they've seen in the country. So congratulations on that. We'll look forward to following the growth going forward. Dr. Michael Busk, also Roger McMichael from Carmel Clay Schools as well. Thank you both very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Well, also this week, more big news for Indiana's manufacturing sector. As Subaru of Indiana Automotive in Lafayette announced another major expansion. The automaker says it will invest nearly $160 million to diversify its manufacturing operations in Tippecanoe County and add over 350 jobs over the next 3 years. That 4.7 million square foot facility, which is Subaru's only assembly plant in the U.S., produces the Legacy, Impreza, Outback, and Ascent models, and currently employs more than 6,000 workers. SIA will build a new service parts facility on the campus, also expand the plant by adding a transmission assembly shop. SIA produces some 410,000 vehicles annually in the state and says it's invested about $2.2 billion in the plant since 1986. Coming up next, a tech startup from the University of Notre Dame says it's reinventing the way we hear sound. Speakers have not changed much since being developed 142 years ago, but Resonado says its new flat speaker technology is changing that in a big way. Details just ahead. It's time to go inside innovation, brought to you by Allegion, pioneering safety. Well, recent graduates from the University of Notre Dame are out to disrupt the sound industry with their patented flat core speaker technology. The founders of Resonado met at the university, and their startup, based out of the Innovation Park there, has raised more than $1 million in early VC funding from around the country. Resonado CEO Brian Cho is here to explain how the technologies help secure some pilot projects with corporations, also become the official sound partner of Notre Dame Athletics. And Brian, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
Fascinating story, I think, and it really gets to the heart of the fact that speakers for 142 years, the industry really hasn't changed much. This technology, you're out to do that in a big way.
Yes, so we're challenging the industry notion that in order to have a good and quality sound, you have to have a large and bulky speaker. And we're challenging that very idea that you can do the same thing in a much more compactness.
Well, the idea, you and your dad came up with this idea, got it patented, right? Well, you were in South Korea before you even got to the University of Notre Dame.
Correct. So I grew up in South Korea under electrical engineer father. It was a pet project that we started for my mom, actually.
Yeah.
And it got to a point when I went to Notre Dame, I was granted an opportunity to really bring this to a commercialization.
We'll talk about the difference, because radically different in terms of the size, the look of it. But you say it's essentially the same, this technology is just put together in a different way.
Yes, so to use an analogy, I use a bakery example. So we have this recipe that we created using the same exact material, but in a different way. So we're rethinking the core mechanism behind how the sound is produced by rearranging the internal components that constitute a speaker design. Yeah. By doing that, we can make speaker into much more compact, but maintain a good quality.
All right, let's talk about gaining traction. You raised some venture capital, doing some deals. I mentioned the official sound partner of Notre Dame Athletics, but you see some real potential for growth. What do you see as the opportunity for growth of your speaker systems?
So we're essentially a B2B company. We work very closely with multinational corporations. And just like you will see in consumer electronics, Intel Inside or Dolby Inside, we want to be the company inside every sound product that enables innovative design.
Amazing story in your growth as well. The Idea Center at the University of Notre Dame Innovation Park, that's where you are at, that's where you're growing. And I think a great example, your company and others there, of innovation happening in Indiana.
Yes, it's a great environment, and I was really lucky to be there when it was just getting started, and we're getting a lot of benefits from the surrounding people and a lot of great faculty that's helping us out.
Well, and as we talked off camera, so much of the speaker technology and the innovation is perceived to be on the coasts and in other places, but you're saying it can happen right here in the Midwest.
There's a huge talent here. There's a lot of resources here that people do not seem to recognize that, and we want to be at the forefront of bringing this innovation back to Midwest and be the force of change here.
All right, I mentioned the Idea Center. Idea Week is a major event in April. It's held there on the South Bend campus. You're going to have a big announcement during that process. Talk about what that event is all about and how you're going to be a part of it.
Yes, the entire week, Idea Week, is dedicated to entrepreneurs and a lot of VC entity. So this is an ecosystem that Notre Dame has been fostering, not only within the Notre Dame, but also the surrounding area. So we happen to have an opportunity this time to open up the event with our major event on the April 18th during the morning time. And we will be making a very surprise announcement. Cannot talk too much about it right now, but we invite everyone to join us.
Good, and we'll be up there to cover that. Brian Cho is the CEO, one of the founders of Resonado, coming out of the University of Notre Dame, making a big splash in the speaker business. And Brian, thanks for being here. We look forward to following the success at the Idea Center up at Notre Dame. Thanks.
Thank you so much.
All right. Well, up next, the focus of the basketball world will be on Indianapolis in about a year as Indy hosts the 2021 NBA AllStar Weekend. We have details on $1 million plus legacy project with a big payoff for young people throughout the state, and why game planners say Indy's size is a huge advantage in hosting the big event. Here's what's making news now around Indiana. It appears Maryville won't be able to move as quickly as it had hoped in pursuing a food and beverage tax. Our partners at the Times of Northwest Indiana report town officials had wanted to quickly get potential legislation in the hands of lawmakers regarding a 1% tax that would be applied to restaurant meals purchased in the Lake County city. But that now appears unlikely this session. An analysis has suggested that Maryville could generate $2.5 to $4 million annually with a food and beverage tax, which could help fund a proposed convention center. Whiting is known for its annual Pierogi Fest, and now another fair is coming to town over Father's Day weekend this June. Custer Fair, the once popular street fair in Evanston, Illinois, is headed east. The move stems from a dispute between festival organizers and Evanston city officials. Organizers say the event took a big hit financially. The city of Evanston says it hasn't been reimbursed for services provided. Well, the NBA All-Star Weekend is still about a year away, but the host committee wants the impact to extend far beyond the action on the hardwood. This week, organizers announced that the organizations and the community statewide that will benefit from more than $1 million in capital improvement projects, all part of a major legacy initiative. I sat down with Pacer Sports and Entertainment President and local host committee founding chair Rick Fussen to talk about the projects, honoring 21 rising stars, and lessons learned at the Chicago All-Star Game. Well, Rick, you just returned recently from the NBA All-Star Game in Chicago. A lot of fanfare, a lot of activity. First of all, what'd you take in? What was your reaction, or kind of the reaction to the weekend?
Well, we always learn things from each city we've gone to. We've been to LA, we've been to New Orleans, we've been to Charlotte. I've been to them. I would have said the Chicago All-Star Game back when they did in 1988. So, you know, we've certainly learned a lot. Chicago does a great job. They just have a different setup than we have in Indianapolis. So, you know, we went to the Wintrust Arena is down by McCormick Place. We had to go to the United Center. They did some things at the Navy Pier, and it's a little bit different because you got to get in a cab or you got to get on a bus, and it takes some time, and you know they get a little more traffic. Yeah. But here in downtown, I mean, I think the other thing it taught us was, man, don't we really have a great campus downtown? 7,200 hotel rooms. You can walk. You can walk from Bankers Life Fieldhouse to the Convention Center to Lucas Oil Stadium in 10 minutes or 15 minutes. A nice deal. Given
that tight package that Indianapolis has such a great reputation for around the country as a big sporting event host, what's the atmosphere? What's the vibe going to be like down here next year?
There will be a vibe.
Yeah.
That's a little bit different than some of the big cities we've seen. You know, you have some banners and whatever else, but there's a lot of other things going on. In Chicago, there was the auto show going on. This will be about the NBA All-Star game and about our love of basketball, on that Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Think about it. Valentine's Day is the day of the game. So isn't it perfect that we can talk about our love of basketball on the day of love in everybody's life?
Maybe a theme there. We'll stay tuned. We'll stay tuned for that. Indianapolis is famous really for legacy projects, hosting big events and having a legacy. That's certainly going to be the case next year with the NBA All-Star game. Talk about this legacy project.
Yeah, I think the NBA's had some legacy programs. When we were in India, we did a legacy program with the Sacramento and the NBA. So we've tried to do this year, around the world. But this legacy program that our local organizing committee came up with is really a little bit different because we're celebrating communities across our state. We are the Indiana Pacers. We are the Indiana Fever. We do grow basketball in our state. We love basketball. And so there are 21 different organizations across the state of Indiana that were awarded the grants, which is over $1 million total. And so, they were announced last week. So it's a great thing. It's just not about Marion County, or it's just not about the central part. We've got them in Lake and Porter County, we've got them in Evansville, so east and west as well. So it's a great opportunity for us.
Give us an idea, Rick, of some of these projects. Again, you have a bunch around the state, but what kind of projects are we talking about?
Well, we announced them this last week at the Concord Neighborhood Center. Serving all kind of different folks on the near south side of Indianapolis, not too far out of the shadow of Lucas Oil Stadium. That's one. They've done great work, and they'll not only be bricks and mortar of doing basketball courts where all kind of different people can play, but it's also STEM labs, it's educational opportunities. And one that's really dear to lots of people's hearts, up in Delphi, where those two young ladies were so brutally murdered. The foundation's been started. One of the grantees is there in the park system that's going to start a hiking trail. And so it's so many different ways that I think that the All-Star game can give back.
Also should mention 21 rising stars, right, around the state are going to be selected.
Yeah, each of the groups from the grantees has given us names of 3 individuals who are the class of 21, and they will be chosen. One of them will be chosen as a rising star. They'll get a scholarship, and they'll be part of the All-Star weekend as well. So really fun.
Final question for you. Just have a few seconds left here, Rick. But this is an opportunity not only for economic impact, but really for Indianapolis, Pacers, Fevers, everyone to kind of be in that national spotlight.
Yeah, the sports business and the economic impact from not only sports but the convention business is huge in our state. There's no question about that. This is over $100 million in terms of economic impact coming back to the city and the state. And you combine that with the other things that are coming to Indianapolis with the NCAA Final Four just 6 weeks later, followed then by Big Ten football and basketball, and then the National College Football Championship. It's probably nearly $600 million impact. That's not something to take lightly.
The NBA All-Star Weekend about a year away. Rick Fussen, as always, thanks very much.
Appreciate your support.
All right. A big weekend ahead 1 year from now, indeed. Well, also ahead, what is the current state of higher education in Indiana right now? And where does it need to be in 5 years? Indiana Commission for Higher Education Commissioner Teresa Lubbers joins me. Stay with us. Well, less than half of Hoosiers, 43%, have education and training past high school. The Indiana Commission for Higher Education recently laid out a plan to move the needle to at least 60% within the next 5 years. In our Eye on Education segment this week, Indiana Commission for Higher Education Commissioner Teresa Lubbers is here with details on the plan and other takeaways from a recent State of Higher Education report. Teresa, as always, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
I would talk about that completion number because it has been the subject of a lot of conversation in Indiana and really, I think, a lot of states probably. But that goal of 60% beyond high school with a quality credential. You're 43% now. How would you assess where things are? Are you making progress toward that goal?
We're making progress. We're at 43.6%. We're counting everything we can. And we've actually increased by about 10% in the last 10 years. And that 60% number, it's important to know why we set 60%. And we established that because those will be the needs of the workforce. And as you mentioned, it's important to mention, we're talking about quality credentials beyond high school. That could be industry certifications, quality certificates, 2 4-year degrees or graduate degrees. We need all of those. We're making progress, but we will not get to that 60% unless we do better with 2 populations in particular. Our adult population, who needs to come back and get those kinds of skills because the jobs have changed, and then those underrepresented populations which have not been served through higher education in the past at the level we need them to be in the future.
Yeah, you mentioned those key areas for moving the needle. How about other partnerships or collaborations? I know the Governor's Workforce Cabinet and the focus at the state level on workforce and how they are aligning with jobs of the future. How does that all play into this?
Well, the Governor's Workforce Cabinet was created to really look at education and training from early childhood education through lifelong learning. And I like to think of it in this way, that we talk about right fit for the individual based on their personal aspirations and preparation and the needs of the economy. There is not a singular pathway, and some people talk and they almost put education and workforce as competitors with each other. Everybody engages in education and workforce to have a meaningful career and job. And so the Workforce Cabinet has really been created to bring employers, agencies, together with philanthropy and community leaders so that we are actually aligned around mutual goals.
And again, the outcomes that you're talking about here have a direct correlation to economic development, jobs, and things that really truly do drive the economy.
It all comes back to the workforce. If you talk about companies that are considering moving to Indiana or growing their companies here, it is about the workforce.
I want to also touch on one other aspect of your State of Higher Education report, and that's the 21st Century Scholars Program, which is celebrating 30 years. Hard to believe it's been that long, but 3 decades.
3 decades, and this is a game changer. I talked about the achievement gap before. Our 21st Century Scholars, who are first-generation, low-income students, they are the only students who are on schedule to close the achievement gap by 2025. Low-income students, their peers who are not 21st Century Scholars, we are not making similar progress with. So we may not have a silver bullet, but we have a pathway for first-generation underrepresented populations to succeed, and we think celebrating 30 years makes a difference. We have over 40,000 students who have graduated with one of those scholarships.
Teresa Lubbers is the commissioner for the Indiana Commission for Higher Education. Teresa, as always, thanks very much. I know we'll be talking to you soon.
Thank you.
All right. Well, just ahead, how adaptive sports can be a game changer for the disabled.
It became life-changing. It became probably the largest thing in my life.
And now Hoosier veterans will get in on the adaptive sports game thanks to a new grant. Leadership from Rehabilitation Hospital of Indiana in studio with details in this week's Business of Health.
It's about the opportunities given for them to try new things, to be a part of a team, maybe for the first time ever. The feeling of a sense of community and no judgment and of being a part of something bigger is priceless.
That's Holly Ullman on how Rehabilitation Hospital of Indiana's adaptive sports program is changing lives. She says it's done wonders for her son who plays wheelchair basketball. Soon, it'll be a game changer for veterans. Recently awarded its largest grant ever, the RHI is rolling out more adaptive sports programs and working to spark the competitive spirit of one group in particular, and that is veterans. Business of Health reporter Kylie Valletta is here now with more. Kylie.
Thank you very much, Gary. The Rehabilitation Hospital of Indiana is a partnership between Indiana University Health and St. Vincent. The hospital's foundation leads the adaptive sports program, which already has more than 300 athletes playing wheelchair basketball and lacrosse, blind hockey, and the list goes on. A recent $230,000 grant will now help grow the number of veterans on the roster. Karen Lawrence is the sports director for the RHI Foundation, and she joins me now to tell us more. Thanks for coming today.
Thank you.
First of all, let's talk about the adaptive sports program in general for folks who haven't heard of it. Just tell us a little bit about it.
So the sports program, it's a Paralympic sports club, and we offer opportunities for competitive and recreational opportunities for people with physical disabilities. So as you said, we kind of have a variety of teams and clinics for those who may not want to be competitive. So if they want to do laser shooting, they want to do archery, they want to come water skiing with us, we have the equipment that they need to be able to participate in these sports.
And there's a mental benefit to this too.
It's incredible to see someone going from being a little nervous or scared because they've never done it before to that smile on their face when they've completed it and wondering when the next practice is or when they can go back out on the water.
So this was a $230,000 grant from the Department of Veterans Affairs. Of all the grants you could have applied for, why did you really want to focus on veterans?
We have been trying to get veterans involved in our program for a long time, but it's very difficult to access these veterans and this population. So since we were never successful, we kind of went and go, okay, what can we do? So this grant, when we saw this grant, we thought, okay, who can we work with to be able to achieve our goal? So we reached out to the YMCA and the VA, and we thought to ourselves, okay, this is an amazing partnership. With the YMCA, we have space. With the VA, we have veterans. And with our sports program, we have the adaptive sports. So this could give the veterans exactly what they need.
So $250,000, what is that going to allow you to do with the program?
First and foremost, it's allowing us to partner with the Veterans Health of Indiana. And this is finally a breakthrough for these veterans that we can actually have them do these sports. This grant is enabling us the necessary collaboration with the VA and other veteran organizations because we can finally get the word out to these veterans that it's available to them. You know, so many of these veteran organizations and these disabled veterans had no idea that this adaptive sports program is out there. So this allows them to be able to participate.
And so much of it is just connecting with them. Like before you had a hard time even, like you said, getting the message to them.
Exactly. And what this allows us to do is this is a free program for them. Because of the Veterans Affairs grant, the Veterans Affairs is actually paying for them to participate in the program. So they can participate in clinics, they can participate in teams, they can do any of our ongoing events for free, which is amazing. And also, our program is 100% funded through donations and sponsorships. And we could not raise this kind of money to double our program to allow all these veterans to participate in such a short amount of time. So this is a wonderful opportunity.
It's amazing to be able to double it. You're hoping this grant could lead to more grants, and your organization has its eyes on your own facility. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, we have been wanting our own facility forever. Because right now all of our teams are all over Indiana, and that's hard. Our clinics are over here and over there, and so there's not that connectivity that our athletes can have. So, you know, our power soccer team doesn't really know our basketball team. Our beat baseball team doesn't know our wheelchair lacrosse team. How amazing would it be to have all these athletes together to be able to see each other, to be able to be their cheerleaders, for younger athletes to have role models that are similar to them, for us to be able to house events and different types of programs. You know, Indiana is known for their athletics. How amazing would it be for us to be known for our adaptive sports program as well, and to have a facility that can house all of these events?
And like you said, the equipment is...
And the equipment.
Yeah.
And we have a lot of adaptive equipment that takes up a lot of space, and that's also very expensive.
A lot of specialized equipment. We only have a few seconds left, but just give a snapshot, the change you're already seeing.
Hour and a half. We have veterans who are saying, oh my gosh, I'm so excited. I can do all these different sports. I'm so busy with these adaptive sports. And we've had other veterans who've participated who, a long time ago, said, by participating in adaptive sports has helped me with my PTSD, has helped me just be able to return home.
Well, I can't wait to see it grow. Congratulations on the grant and good luck with the growth.
Thank you so much.
Gary, back to you.
Thanks, Kylie, and Karen, thanks for being here as well. Well, this week, Indianapolis Colts owner Jim Irsay made a huge donation to help Hoosiers recovering from addiction issues. Irsay has pledged $1 million to the IU Health Foundation to boost access to addiction services all over the state. IU Health Methodist Hospital in Indianapolis and Ball Memorial in Muncie each offer the services of embedded peer recovery coaches who help others in their recovery. Irsay's donation will go toward coaching to be implemented in the IU Health system in primary care settings. IU Health will also use the gift to expand access to adolescent addiction services. Jim Irsay is also pushing to keep one of the NFL's popular off-season events in Indianapolis. Up next, we'll look at the long-term future of the NFL Combine in Indy, the economic impact and the importance of sports tourism on the city. Also ahead, the rising popularity of esports.
Eventually, esports will get to the point where it will match professional sports, where you have scouts picking out of colleges and you have college picking out of high schools and work their way down.
Our Mary Rachel Redmond introduces us to a Central Indiana company leading the charge for young gamers. That's next. Well, with the annual arrival of the NFL Scouting Combine this week in Indianapolis, the value of sports tourism to both the city and the region is once again on display in a big way. Bill Benner has more in this week's Inside Indiana Sports. Bill.
Gary, thanks. And while other cities, NFL cities, jockey to put themselves in position to lure the Combine, Indy continues to emphasize that no one does it better. And the same is true for the seemingly infinite array of coveted sports events that are headed our way in the coming months. Joining us today to discuss is Chris Gall, Visit Indy's Senior Vice President of Marketing and Communications. And Chris, my friend, welcome back. We talked about the Combine last year, future assured for 20 and 21, but you said this is a really pivotal year because it's a chance for Indy to shine in kind of as the Combine evolves into a truly national big event.
You're right, Bill, thanks for having me on. It's one of those events we've hosted since 1987. We have them safe and sound through 2021. And then they said, let's call a timeout. And through 2025, let's go around the table and see what's working and what's not. So we're playing to win, but this year's a pivotal year because it'll be the first time the Combine's on national primetime television, in addition to the NFL Network. It'll be the first time that we have an abundance of fans inside the convention center for a free event where you can come see them actually work out doing the bench press. Fans inside the stadium. So logistically, the event has grown 2 or 3 days on each side. Record-setting number of fans, 9,000. Record-setting economic impact, 9 million. Record-setting credentialed media, 1,500. But all eyes are saying, can Indy continue to deliver? As other cities, NFL franchise cities, are saying, we want that.
Well, and you before we went on the air, you said Los Angeles, they've been out there anyway. Dallas, Las Vegas, they got boots on the ground here.
We've had eyes on Team Las Vegas, Team Dallas, and Team LA. They're here, they're scouting, as I guess Indianapolis has for other events. We know that. It's an event that is sought after, and it's because 1,500 media are here. It's because the NFL brass are in your city year in and year out. And if and when we want to go for the draft or another Super Bowl, we have a leg up because the NFL's conditioned to come to Indy each and every year.
And this new iteration, again, plays to our strengths because, again, the medical aspect is very important, but just, again, everything combined, moving lots of people, it plays to our strengths.
There's also tangential benefits. For instance, there are 15 TV commercials with professional athletes that will be shot in Indianapolis during the Combine. Peyton Manning will host a gala to raise money because he's in for the Combine. Other celebrities here do business and interaction because of the combine. So it attracts the C-suite business executives, the NFL brass, the major media, and a lot of pro athletes. That's a sought-after event.
And the combine, obviously, we discussed this, kicking off an exciting month with Big Ten men's and women's basketball tournaments, Horizon League. We got an NCAA regional. Moving forward, we got diving trials coming up, and then the big three on the horizon,
Yeah.
All-Star, Final Four, and the college football playoff.
I think
incredible.
Those big three, we're on the clock for the NBA All-Star game. You have to remember, as a city, as a host city, Team Indy, from the sports court to the mayor's office, the governor's office, downtown Indy, et cetera, we're focused on making sure that swimming and diving, we're making sure the Big Ten men's and women's bouncing back. That's a $15 million economic impact with fans from around the country coming. And then you have Sweet 16 and Elite 8 games at the end of March, which any city would like to have. And so you got to keep what's right in front of you healthy while thinking ahead towards the future.
And Visit Indy uses these sports tourism. You're filling hotel rooms, but you're also using these as an attraction for future events, both sports-related and non-sports-related.
Yeah, we have suites that will be filled with business executives who are thinking about hosting a convention or a meeting in Indy. They see the city, they see their team on the court, they see what we're able to do, and ultimately that equals future business. We also invite residents from cities that have NFL franchise to come see the combine, come see Big Ten schools, those cities like Columbus, Ohio. If you're an Ohio State fan, are you going to come to Indy? Yeah. So we use it to attract tourism.
Interesting, when we had, and as we wrap up, Chris, we had the Super Bowl, we had Final Fours. People kind of thought, what's next?
Yeah.
This is what's next.
It's happening.
Yeah.
And we're diversifying the sports portfolio with the NBA All-Star game and the college football playoff. But again, you can't take those other pieces for granted like the combine.
All right, Chris Gall, great stuff, and we look forward to, again, an incredible array of events. Gary, back to you.
All right, Bill, thank you. Well, the global esports industry continues to skyrocket, with revenue exceeding over $1 billion in 2019. Inside Indiana business reporter Mary Rachel Redmond has more on a unique Carmel-based company committed to furthering Indiana esports at all levels.
Thanks, Gary. Well, Evolve Youth Esports is one of the only organizations currently like it in the country, dedicated to providing organized video game instruction and competitions for ages 9 to 16 years old. And perhaps to the chagrin of many parents, Evolve General Manager Spencer Hirschberger tells me, unlike any time in history, esports are quickly becoming more than just a hobby, but an opportunity.
The college scene is growing up really quickly. The high school scene is also starting to grow, but below that, there's not the Little League equivalent of video games.
So why organize an esports league for youth?
In the greater esports industry, a lot of analysts and insiders think that eventually esports will get to the point where it will match professional sports, where you have scouts picking out of colleges and you have college picking out of high schools and work their way down. And what a facility or just a program like Evolve Youth Esports seeks to do is enable players who have a love of video gaming and a love of competition and team sports or even individual sports, and give them an opportunity to participate in all that, learn about the greater esports industry, and build themselves a path to becoming involved with it.
And for good reason. In 2019, nearly 200 U.S. colleges offered around $15 million in scholarships to esports players. And that number is only growing.
Esports is starting to go hand in hand with education the same way traditional sports do. Our primary, at least my primary goal, is to demonstrate to parents and kids that this, video game hobby of theirs is actually something that they can take with them into college, earn scholarships, and participate with a real team and as a real sport.
And while Hirschberger says Indiana still has a ways to go in terms of embracing esports, he does think the Hoosier State has a lot of potential.
Indiana has a very strong history of sports in general, from the high school level all the way up to the professional level. And I think that Indiana is a very natural fit. We have one of the best international airports in America as it is. Indianapolis is already the city that the NFL Combine is held at every single year. This is where the NCAA championships are held. It's a great central point for American players, and it's also a great destination for international players.
Mary Rachel Redman, Inside Indiana Business.
All right, Mary Rachel, thank you. Also this week, a strong start for the housing market in 2020. Central Indiana home sales jumped a little more than 14% in January. That according to a report from FC Tucker Company. It shows just over 3,000 homes were purchased in the 16-county region, up from more than 2,600 sold a year ago. Jennings County in that region showed the most growth with a 100% increase. The average year-to-date home price in Central Indiana, nearly $218,000. Plus, Wisconsin-based Generator has expanded its 7-week G-Beta Accelerator to Vigo County. The first G-Beta program has officially launched in Terre Haute with 5 early-stage startup companies that span the food and beverage, subscription box, and aerospace sectors. Leading the effort is Jeff Zentz, who most recently ran the G-Beta Indianapolis and Ag Bioscience programs, and he'll serve as the Terre Haute director. The program will offer resources and guidance to the startups, and they'll also pitch 25 or more investors. Terre Haute is the first in G-Beta's expansion across the Hoosier State, with Fort Wayne, that program becoming next in the spring. Coming up, our insiders getting warmed up to sound off on Jim Irsay's $1 million pledge to IU Health to help people with addictions, the economic impact of sports tourism, and a lot more. There they are in the Inside Indiana Business Social Media Lounge. They'll join me coming up next. Stay with us. Well, each week, a group of insiders joins me to offer perspective on some of the week's top stories. This week, sounding off on a healthcare model with Indiana roots that's saving workers and companies millions of dollars. It could be a national model. Plus, Subaru plans yet another major expansion in Lafayette and a lot more. Joining me this week on the Insiders, pleased to be joined by C. Garcia and Associates owner and president Charlie Garcia. Also, Content by Carter president and CEO Cam Carter. And Hollowell Consulting President Jennifer Hollowell. And welcome one and all to the Insiders for another edition. We begin this week, our top story this week, healthcare, wellness, obviously big issues for companies and organizations all over the state of Indiana, controlling those costs. Charlie, a model, Ascension St. Vincent Health has created a near-site wellness model, if you will, saving Carmel Clay Schools $11 million in 2 years. It's being picked up by Fiat Chrysler in Kokomo, Detroit. Could be a national model, but it's all something Dr. Mike Busk developed the idea, and it's really catching on.
Right, Jerry. It's a changing times for healthcare. Essentially, I was on the board of Ascension for a number of years, and with that, looking at different models and what really works. We have looked at on-site for a number of years, probably 10 years right now, and there's a lot of small companies that are doing it. But to be effective at it, and I think the key is the relationship with the community. And having, of course, the critical mass of the population for the need. Yeah. So I know Ascension, St. V's here locally have done a lot of thinking about it, and we're excited about it. Yeah. I mean, it is a national model.
Yeah, and it is really growing. And Jennifer, as you look at this issue, politicians, companies, organizations, all trying to get their arms around it. At the end of the day, it looks like innovation is kind of driving some of the solutions.
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, healthcare costs obviously are a significant issue for companies and for employees, and access to care is a big issue and a reason, the convenience factor why people maybe don't get care, but it drives costs down for everyone to have a model like this that we hope to see expand across the state. Yeah.
Let's hope there's a huge wellness component to this, because that ounce of prevention versus a pound of cure is so very true, and we've got to do something to get control of our healthcare costs. Because it's not going to be Medicare for all. Yeah,
and that is a big part of it is the wellness piece. Also, thought it was interesting this week in Carmel, $25 million behavioral health center construction began on that center in Plainfield. It seems that these behavioral centers, health centers, very much in demand and growing in a lot of places around Indiana.
Well, they will be when you have a government mandate that says you have to treat mental health ailments the same as physical health ailments, and so this is a demonstration where government policy drives what private market actors do in that marketplace.
Also interesting that Jim Irsay, the owner of the Colts this week, more on the philanthropy side, the NFL Combine is here, so a lot of focus on the field, but off the field, giving $1 million to IU Health to focus on addiction treatment services, not only here in Indianapolis, but around the state. So I think, another example, not only the health side of things, but the philanthropy from Jim Irsay and the Irsay family.
Yeah, and I think that's fantastic. I mean, certainly on the behavioral health hospital, it's something that we need, and actually the Indiana legislature just passed a behavioral health commission that's going to look into, we have rising rates of suicide and suicidal thoughts, addiction, all kinds of issues that need to be addressed. They're growing.
Gary, I know under Governor Mitch Daniels, he had a plan for behavioral health and couldn't get it passed for a new site. I do work, I'm one of the developers at Central Greens, where the old Central State Hospital was. And there's been such a need for that and a reduction in the funding of behavioral health. So I'm excited about seeing that there's more attention being brought to it and that we're going to add resources behind it. So.
Another big week for economic development in the state of Indiana. A big expansion, announced another expansion at Subaru of Indiana Automotive in Lafayette. That plant, that complex continues to grow. This week announcing plans for adding some 350 new jobs at the Lafayette site. Cam, a place that came to fruition in the late 80s amid political controversy in the gubernatorial race at that time, but it has done nothing but hit home runs essentially for all these years.
Yeah, I think we can definitively bury the 1988 political back and forth on that. Thank you, Bob Orr and John Mutz, for your vision and foresight. Tremendous. I have family that is employed there, and glad that their family is growing, and shows you what happens when you have far-sighted vision, when you commit resources, both public and private. If you go up 65 and look at all the interchanges there, developed a bunch of farm field, not that we don't need farm fields, but into a tremendous economic engine for that area of the state.
And you mentioned Bob Orr and John Mutz and Vision, and Japanese companies in particular. When Subaru opened up, there were a handful, and today I think the number is over 300 Japanese companies in the state.
Again, a tremendous economic development strategy, not just a tactic, but an overall strategy that takes you out decades.
Another piece of the economy that is very important is sports tourism, if you will, not only in Indianapolis, but around the state. This week and this weekend, the NFL Combine is here, one of a number of big events coming up in Indianapolis. And as we look at Jennifer efforts, Indianapolis has really defined the Combine in so many ways. Great infrastructure with the medical and health facilities and all those types of things. But now there are cities, LA, Dallas, and some other places that want to pull it away. You think they'll be successful in grabbing the NFL Combine?
I don't know. I don't think so. We have such a great reputation, and we have so many leaders who are deeply involved in this and have made Indiana and Indianapolis shine. And then you have Ryan Vaughn with the Sports Corp. Just so many people who are watching out for Indiana's role in these kinds of events, and I think will continue to be the master.
Yeah, and Charlie, you look at the health component, and that's such a big piece of the NFL Combine, and the infrastructure that is here to connect Lucas Oil Stadium and the facilities with the health facilities. Nobody has that in some of these other places.
I mean, years ago when we put together CICP, corporate partnership, the focus was what are the attributes that we have downtown? And one of them was healthcare, was IU Health and the hospitals and our technology and research. And so we've really capitalized that when it comes to sports. The motor speedway, racing, and college sports and professional sports.
And we have an unprecedented run, Cam, big events coming up. The NBA AllStar game in a year from now, essentially, will be here next year. In the future, it'll be the NCAA Final Four. It'll be the college football national championship game. So it really is big business, but the competition to get those and to land those events is intense.
It's huge business. Again, another overnight success story. decades in the planning, strategic vision carries you out. And don't forget, you just did a package on esports, I believe.
yeah.
And the final table for the World Food Championships is coming, so that's culinary sports.
I forgot about that. That's
coming
exactly
in May
right
as well.
You know, the other piece, the NBA All-Star Game, this legacy project is statewide. They're handing out grants to, I think, 21 communities, not just here in central Indiana, but Porter County, Lake County, all around the state. So there is statewide impact to these sporting events.
Yeah, and I think it's important that those kind of programs are going out, further outside Indianapolis, so that we're continuing to show the value of what the capital city is doing, but also connecting people to that.
Yep, lots of big events coming up. Jennifer Hollowell, also Cam Carter, Charlie Garcia, thank you one and all for being here on The Insiders, and we'll be right back after this.
Thank you.
Coming up next week, finding the perfect fit when it comes to choosing a school isn't always easy. That's where Enroll Indy comes in. More on how the organization is putting young people on the path to employment by first finding the best fit in the classroom. And we'll take you to the Grant County community of Converse, where business is booming at Lucy's Car Wash. It's a unique model giving kids with special needs hope and a place to work. Thanks for joining us this week. I'm Gary Dick. Go out and make it a successful week.
Inside Indiana Business with Gary Dick is a production of Grow Indiana Media Ventures with support from WFYI Productions.